My Journey by Frank James Morrison Sr., 1985, with foreword and additions by myself, Dennis M. Morrison. Foreword. This February, it will be 2 years since Frank Morrison Sr. passed away. Born on March 27, 1914, he would be 77 years old. In my belief, based on the Holy Bible, he is as much alive as you and I, as his spirit dwells in the very real place with the very real Lord Jesus. Even now, he is likely helping in the preparation of a place for us to be. To mark his 77th birthday, I have assembled together this small booklet. It contains the brief essay that he wrote in 1985 called My Journey. There is also reproduced a journal which he kept in 1944 while crossing the Atlantic Ocean on his way to combat in Italy during World War II. A newspaper article from the Saginaw News tells of a harrowing experience he had with the Germans. I hope that you will enjoy this little booklet about my dad, and that perhaps you might share it with your family and your children's children and so on. My Journey. March 27, 1914, my Lord saw fit to drop me off at the home of Bessie and Bill Morrison on Barlow Road in Guston Township, Elkona County, Michigan. They were a young couple, just married. They were also starting on a rough and hard journey. I was to share the first 21 years of my journey of life with these people that I called Mom and Dad. There were also 3 sisters and 1 brother. From the farm on Fowler Road, we moved to Alpena. The family lived there in 1927. From there, our journey took us to Saginaw, Michigan, and by the time we arrived in Saginaw, I was already in the 5th grade. During my school years, there was not very much excitement, and by the mid-1929, I was getting my first lessons of working for survival. In 1930, Dad was laid off from his place of employment, which was General Motors. By that time, I obtained 3 daily paper routes and 1 Sunday motor route, which covered 80 miles. In the meantime, Mom also got a job. Between the 2 of us, we kept the wolf out of the door and the family fed. After quitting school in the 11th grade, I proceeded to look for a job, and jobs were hard to come by then. Shortly before getting married, I got a job at Draper Chevrolet, and I worked there until May of 1936, when I went to work for General Motors. My work here at General Motors took me through 35 and a half years. The years from 1935 through 1940 were years of labor unrest. We were either shut down by the company or were on strike. In 1937, I was out of work for 7 months. There was no unemployment insurance to help. It was either welfare or, if lucky enough, WPA work projects. All of this did little to improve our journey in life. And I said our journey. Let me backtrack just a little. For in 1931, I met Lorraine Cunningham, and we shared our journey as friends until 1936. And on February 8, 1936, Lorraine and I committed ourselves to share the total journey together. Work improved until 1943, and then I was drafted into the Army. I served in Italy until November 1945. After the first 9 years of marriage, we were blessed with our first child, and we were blessed later with 2 more boys and 1 girl. In 1970, I left General Motors due to heart problems, and in November of 1971, we moved to Oscoda, Michigan, about 15 miles from where this journey started. The first 5 years I enjoyed, and the past 8 have not been the best health-wise, and in 1976, I accepted Jesus Christ as my personal Savior. That was all he wrote, but it was difficult to get him to write anything at all. The war years were years that he and I had never discussed much, but perhaps you have some recollections of things he told you about those years if you knew him. I'd encourage you to leave your memories of those years in the comments below. He failed to mention that he also worked for Western Union in the 1930s, and back while delivering a telegram at a bank in downtown Saginaw, he rescued a baby from what could have been a real tragedy. The Saginaw News carried the story, but unfortunately it's been misplaced in the shuffle of papers. The story is that he came across a baby carriage that was smoldering, and the mother was nowhere in sight. Someone had dropped a lit cigarette into the baby carriage, and he took care of putting out the fire and locating the grateful mother. Before we continue, let's look at a few facts. As already stated, Frank Morrison Sr. was born March 27, 1914 in Guston Township. For those of you who don't know where Guston is located in Michigan, it's about 10 miles down F-41 from Wurtsmith Air Force Base. And at one time, there was a town at Guston, but don't look for it now. It's just not there. The house that Frank was born in was a log one that has long since fallen away. However, still standing, though deserted, is a cement block barn-shaped house where his grandfather and grandmother lived. The cement block house was built right next to the small log house. Frank did recount that he spent many summer visits in that old farmhouse. I was through the old place not long ago, and though it is in total disrepair, it looked to be a place that abounded in love. As Frank mentioned in my journey, he served in Italy during World War II. The trip across the Atlantic must have been rather tedious at times and a bit nerve-wracking. He kept a journal of that trip from February 21st, 1944 through June 10th, 1944. At times it's just mundane recording of day's events, and at other times there is some drama involved in it. So without saying further, this is the journal of Frank Morrison Sr. February 21st, 1944, Monday a.m. Left Fort George Meade at 7 o'clock a.m., arrived at Newport, West Virginia at dock about 6 o'clock p.m., got off the train and loaded directly onto the SS Eugene. February 22nd, 1944, Tuesday. Pulled out about 5 a.m., sailed for 3 hours, and dropped anchor, waiting for convoy to build up. Don't know when we will start again. Standing a 4-hour guard on deck from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock, and nothing has happened. February 23rd, 1944, Wednesday. Up at 3:30 a.m. to stand watch till 6 a.m. Stood watch again at 10 to 1 p.m. Nothing happened, but the water is still pretty green. Just finished dinner. Had a little program down in the hold, put on by the sailors and a few army men, and we enjoyed it. February 24th, 1944, Thursday. Got up at 10 o'clock a.m., went up on deck. While looking over the side, I saw a small octopus about 2 feet long. I went on guard at 10 o'clock p.m. till 1 o'clock a.m. Do these boats ride close together at night? February 25th, 1944, Thursday. Guard duty again from 6 a.m. till 8 a.m. We went around a floating mine this morning. Been hell if we had hit it. Guard from 10 p.m. till 1 a.m. February 26, 1944, Saturday. Stood guard from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. and again from 1 till 4 p.m. Saw some flying fish, and oh boy, is this water rough. Comes over the rails quite often. Guard some more from 10 p.m. till 1 a.m. Had gun practice on the ship this afternoon, and these are quite good, and also had a shot in the arm. February 27, 1944, Sunday. 12:30 a.m., and we've really got a blow on. Can't hardly stand up in the hold. Haven't been seasick yet, but probably will be. Stood guard from 6 o'clock a.m. to 8 o'clock a.m., and am standing now from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. The storm is still blowing strong. February 28, 1944, Monday. Got up at 9 o'clock a.m., nothing to do but sit on deck and look at the water and ships. One ship had a burial at sea this morning at 10:30 a.m. February 29, 1944, Tuesday. Today is payday. Well, at least it's supposed to be. Stood watch from 1 a.m. till 4 p.m., off till 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., and off from 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. Weather is real swell today. March 1st, 1944, Wednesday. Got up at 3:10 a.m. to stand guard. Stood from 3:30 till 7:30 a.m. Changed watch. We stand 4 on and off 8. Am I tired? The boys put on a little program tonight, and it was pretty good. Truth or consequences. March 2nd, 1944, Thursday. Stood guard from 3:30 a.m. till 8 o'clock a.m. Had the sub-drill at 1 p.m. The weather is foggy and rainy. Stood guard from 3:30 p.m. till 7:30 p.m. tonight, through until 7 p.m. tomorrow night. March 3rd, 1944, Friday. Got up at 12 noon, didn't eat breakfast, had shots this afternoon, lost $1.70 at dice, still $15 ahead though, Just finished dinner and was pretty good. Laid around the rest of the day. March 4th, 1944, Saturday. Had dinner, shot a little crap, and lost 370. Quitting until after we land now. This is the 13th day out and getting tiresome. March 5th, 1944, Sunday. Got up and had breakfast and stood guard. Later went to services on board. At 12:30 p.m. watched several boxing matches on deck, and they were pretty good. Boat captain put on the gloves with one of our men, and it was pretty funny. Having chicken for dinner. Also wrote 2 letters home to wife and mother. Had a bingo game tonight, but I had to stand guard. March 6, 1944, Monday. Had an alert at 9:30 p.m. that lasted about a half an hour. March 7th, 1944, Tuesday. Got up at 8:30 for another alert. Went back to bed at 12 noon. Heard this morning that we lost a ship last night by submarine. March 9th, 1944, Thursday. Called out at 8:30 am on alert. Found out where we were bound for, Augusta, Sicily. March 10th, 1944, Friday. Up at 8 for fire drill. Saw our first land since the 22nd of February. On one side of the boat was Spain and the other Africa. About noon we saw the Rock of Gibraltar. Also saw a lot of porpoises. They've really put on a show for us. March 11th, 1944, Saturday. Was chased out of bed at 4 a.m. for an alert. Had 3 of them today. Are following the North African coastline. It's all mountains. Saw a saltwater turtle. Passed by Oran tonight. Threw out a smoke screen around the convoy tonight. March 14th, 1944, Tuesday. What a swell day out. Off guard for 36 hours. Was invited to supper by the captain of the ship. Had hamburger, steak, lettuce, tomatoes, coffee, pears, and cookies. The best since I left the States. March 16th, 1944, Thursday. Got up at 7:30 a.m. Can see the coast of Sicily. Will land sometime today. Laid anchor in the harbor for about 5 hours. Got new orders and are going to Italy. We'll be about 40 miles from the front lines. Expect combat soon. Will be an awful slaughter. It's really an awful shame on someone's part. Saw Mount Etna today. We were supposed to go in here as a labor battalion and MP duty. Augusta is in ruins. One ship sunk in the harbor. Can see the upright structure above the water. The natives came out to the ship and traded fruit and wine for tobacco. Can also see the wreckage of a Nazi aircraft on the beach. March 18th, 1944, Saturday. We are now going around the heel of Italy. It is beautiful. Had sub-alert at 4 o'clock a.m., but nothing happened. Expect trouble tonight. Last convoy that went through here lost 17 ships. March 19th, 1944, Saturday. Landed at Brindisi at 10 o'clock a.m. Got off the ship at about 2 o'clock p.m., marched 1.5 miles on to the rail depot, then loaded in cattle cars and plenty of dirt, being shipped to Naples. March 20, 1944, Monday. Like to have frozen in this damn car last night. There are a lot of orange groves down here. Saw an old castle just out of Bernardo. Saw 2 or more of them since. We are now in Grassano, Garaguso, Tricarico. Got half pissed up last night on wine, or vino as they call it. March 21st, 1944, Tuesday. Got into camp about 2 o'clock p.m. Oh, what a mud hole. Sleeping in tents. Was issued 1903 rifles. Had chow. Was good. Camp at Concerta. March 22nd, 1944, Wednesday. Revelry at 5:45. Had breakfast and then went out and zeroed our rifles. Had short arms and a shot this afternoon. Can hear the shell fire from the front. March 24th, 1944, Friday. Stood guard all day. Can see smoke clouds from the erupting volcano. Guess that it's pretty bad. Guard was interesting. Jimmy and Jack was shipped. March 25th, 1944, Saturday. Went on a 20-mile march. Got 3 damn big blisters on my feet. Bob Bradley still here. March 27th, 1944, Monday. 30 years old today. Had 2 small marches. Night problems tonight. Wrote 4 letters home. March 29th, 1944, Wednesday. Saw flights of about 2,000 planes. April 6, 1944, Thursday. 1 case of malaria. Private Shannon, one of my buddies. April 24th, 1944, Tuesday. Could see the firing of shells from Naples. Nazi air raid was on. Some night. May 2nd, 1944. Went to a meeting and heard Lieutenant General Clark give a talk. He is commanding general of the U.S. Navy. May 8th, 1944, Monday. I saw a U.S. observation craft crash today. No one was hurt. May 11th, 1944, went up to the front, entering the 338th Infantry, 85th Division. May 12th, 1944, went into the attack. June 4th, 1944, went through Rome. June 10th, 1944, back for rest and training. The journal entries are interesting, yet they tell little of the horror that my dad and his fellow freedom fighters faced on the front lines during that first campaign, which began on May 12, 1944. When he records on June 10th that he was back for rest and training, that did not mean his part in combat was over. He was in 3 campaigns. There was much more to come. The campaigns in which he took part were Rome Arno, Northern Apennines, and the Po Valley Push. Surrounded. The following article from the Saginaw News gives a first-hand account of the danger to life that Dad faced daily during his time in combat. The article read, Surrounded, but Saginaw soldier and his comrades shoot their way out, helping repel a Nazi attack in northern Italy recently as a member of a patrol. A Saginaw soldier, Private Frank James Morrison, includes among his experiences that of occupying for 24 hours a house in German territory surrounded by the enemy. Returning to their company, the doughboys from the 338th Infantry Regiment, 85th Custer Division of the 5th Army, left several dead and wounded Germans behind. Private Morrison's wife Lorraine and their 3-month-old son Frank Jr. reside at 1019 South 4th Street in Saginaw. The patrol had moved into the building during the night, and when daylight came, the Yanks saw a house 150 yards ahead and another 200 yards off to their left. They also saw Germans moving about. 3 groups of Italians went into the house occupied by the Yanks and told them the Jerrys were in the other buildings. While the doughboys were awaiting further orders, the Nazis attacked. The Yanks had a wire to their command post and called for supporting fire, and in the meantime, opening up with all available weapons. The American support came in the form of a mortar barrage and cannon fire. The Yanks could hear the Jerrys yelling after about a half an hour it was all over. The enemy post was quiet, and the doughboys withdrew without trouble. Private Morrison, the son of Mr. and Mrs. William Morrison of 915 4th, has a brother Emery with the Army in the South Pacific. A few additional facts. Frank Morrison was in the 338th Infantry Regiment, 85th Division, Company 1. His induction date was July 15, 1943, and his separation was on November 8, 1945, via an honorable discharge. His separation took place at Unit B Separation Center, number 451 GMR, Pennsylvania. He entered active duty on August 5, 1943, at Camp Custer, Michigan. Camp Custer played a role in the life of Frank Morrison's uncle Emery Ranger, who died in 1918 during World War I. Frank Morrison was decorated with the Good Conduct Medal and the African Middle Eastern Service Medal with 3 bronze stars. His total length of service was 6 months and 23 days on the continent and 1 year, 8 months and 11 days in Italy. He returned to the United States on October 22, 1945. And in closing, much more could be said and should be said about my dad, but these few things bring a small chapter in his life to me in his own words, and in the words of one reporter for the Saginaw News. So with that, all I have to add is that he was a great dad, and I'm proud of what he did to defend his country in times as trying as those that we are living in today.